last one of the year. 554th class of 2001. What would you believe? Not a bad go. So I'm just going to take a little seat. I'm going to use my block as ever. You can if you wish. And just wriggle out through the sitting bones, those thighs, rest down, up to the groins out a little bit. Just wriggle around on the sitting bones to kind of find the best position for the balance of your pelvis, bearing in mind that the rest of your spine has to live on top of that. So I'm going to start off with just taking the hands on the thighs to start with, and then thinking about just letting the shoulders roll back and out and wide a little bit, so it feels like the chest is broadening. You get less rounded shoulders in the chest area. And think about leveling the head out as well. And breathing slowly. And that slow breath, you want to be able to feel the diaphragm expand and contract. And closing the eyes if that helps. Take the hands, just interlace the fingers and the forearms together so they can roll around on the wrists a little bit. And just starting to get a little bit of juice in there. And then release the fingers. And lean forwards and take a little bit of weight into the hands. So I want to be able to get the feeling of stretch in tendons and the ligaments in the palm of the hand and through the knuckles as well. Now at this point, I'm still trying to keep the spine long and drawing the belly in a little bit, so I'm breathing a little more into the ribs at this point. I'm going to see if I can turn the fingers outwards and the thumbs forwards. I'm still trying to lightly press down through all the knuckles so I can feel just on the edge of a stretch taking place. It doesn't have to be big. And just for fun, I'll see if I can turn the hands towards me, thumbs out to the sides. Get a deeper stretch down, forearms, cat's paws. I'll draw the belly in and lift myself up, so taking the weight out of the hands and the fingers and just give them a little shake out. Untangling the legs, giving them a shake, coming onto all fours. I'll move the block out to the side gently. Tuck the toes underneath once the shoulders are over the wrists. Lift up into a plank. The feet about hip distance apart. And then come forwards gently. I'm going to lift the toes away from the floor and cross the ankles so the toes stay away from the ground and the hips stay high. And then I'm going to let myself come down forwards and bring the elbows into the ribs. Just almost touch the chin on the floor and press back. Get the shoulders back, elbows into the ribs. Press up for number 2, just rolling and pivoting on those knees. Coming down for number 3. And and 4. Make 5, the last one. Breath in, untangle the feet, tuck the toes underneath, lift the knees away into a down dog. And just letting ourselves slowly and easily walk out the feet. Draw those abdomens in as we lift the hips high. Allow ourselves to get a nice big stretch into the underside of the foot. So the heels are away from the floor. Middle finger more or less pointing forwards. Just wrapping the armpits a little towards the ground. We're going to take a scissor of the right leg to the sky. Just lift that up. And bring that back down to the floor. And scissor the left leg up. Bring that down. Scissor the right leg. Come forwards into a plank. And press back into the down dog. Bring the foot to the floor. The left leg into a scissor high, come forwards into a plank, and press back, and bring the foot to the floor. We'll take the right leg high, scissor into plank, keeping the foot lifted, half plank, elbows into the ribs, press down, back into the down dog, and the foot to the floor. Left leg lifts. Come forwards into plank, exhale forwards, press away from the ground, lift back up. Not so easy to do and talk at the same time. We come to the floor, and we come into a forward bend. So we'll walk the hands back towards the toes. See how that feels. Depending on how your back feels, you may have sciatic issues or you've strained your back recently. Allow yourself to stay with the fingers on the floor in the static position. Otherwise, you can bend your right knee a little, straightening the left leg and pressing the foot into the floor, and transferring over to the other side. So one bendy knee, sinking into the hip a little, coming across to the other side. Just feeling those hamstrings working for you. Feeling the feet spreading a little bit underneath as you transfer the weight. I'll take it to one more time on each side. And come back into the center. I'm going to wiggle the feet out as wide as the mat, turn the toes out a little bit. Allow myself to sink the bottom down so it's in line with the knees and the chest is parallel to the ground. You can take a little breath and then let the body sink down between the thighs and the head hangs down. And I'm simply going to ragdoll out. Draw that exhale, press into the thighs and lift up. Picking the arms out wide, breath in with the hands high to the sky and through the center into your heart. Zigzag those toes gently back in. I'm going to shake it out as I walk into the front of the mat. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Exhale slowly over those hips down to the floor. You can take a little breath from here. Step back into down dog. And come forwards into plank. Half plank. Take my first up dog. Strong legs in the chest. Lifting the hips high. Back into down dog. And soften the knees. Spot the front of the mat. If you're able to, you jump into the front of the mat or step either leg up to the front of the mat into a forward fold. Put your hands onto the hips. We lift. Taking the hands high and towards the heart. Zigzag the toes together so big toes touch. And as ever, leave about a ½ an inch between the heels and the ankles, just so they don't rub together. You're going to spot something on a wall or a floor in front of you, so you keep your focus point. And shift the weight into your left leg. Allow yourself to very slowly draw your right knee towards your body. Now you're going to squeeze that in as high as you can, and then ease the hands around the shin and use your arms to help lift that a little higher while still pressing down through the standing leg without pressing into the back knee. And we'll release that down to the floor. Take a little breath. Find a focus point. Shift the weight gently. And slowly start to lift the opposite leg. Again, take the hands around gently. Draw that knee in. Letting that foot come back down onto the floor, just shaking it out a little bit. Again, with the toes together, the hands in towards the heart. We're going to soften the knees this time over the toes and sit back into a chair. So the tailbone actually tucks forward, the pubic bone moves towards the front, tailbone down towards the ground. Keep the spine nice and long rather than rounding. We're going to allow ourselves to take the hands out into chair pose. Now, you're going to take a breath. Try and squeeze the thighs together as tight as you can. Shift the weight a little into the right foot. Slide the left foot forward so the toes and the foot are just off the floor, but squeezing the thighs together. So it's a single legged chair pose. But still breathe. And then we'll bring that foot back, keeping the knees in position. Glue together with that bend, long spine. Shift the weight into the other leg. Slide the right foot forwards. And then bring that foot back. Standing position, bring your hands in towards the heart. Sit down a little lower. And take this right elbow across to the left. And the knees stuck together in parallel. Press the heel of the hand together. Lift the chest a little. Slowly look out to the side. See if you can roll that top shoulder back a little bit more. You'll come into the center. Rotate around to the opposite side. Into the center again. Let ourselves lift all the way up. Float the arms out to the side, up towards the sky. Let the feet come out hip distance apart as you bring your hands through your heart. And exhale down to the floor. Going to soften the knees and jump back into a plank. Press forwards on the tippy toes. half plank. Places change. Up dog. Into down dog. Couple of breaths. Now we'll come forwards into a plank and bring the knees this time directly underneath the hips. So we're in a traditional tabletop position. We'll take a little breath from here. Tap the toes of your right foot underneath. Lengthen the foot back. We'll press down into that left shin a little bit and press into the hands. So rather than sinking into the shoulders, you press away from the floor. Feel your front, abdomen, chest, all of that area, that line kind of liven up as you push away from the ground. And we'll take the right foot away from the floor as well. And we'll put a bend into the knee as best we can, 90 degrees with the foot flexed. We're going to draw the knee through and towards the nose. Take it back. Keep the belly drawn in. Lift the knee as high as you can without bowing through the spine. And draw the knee back in. So we round on the way through. Keep the spine deliberately neutral as we try and lift and squeeze into that butt a little bit. Pressing back. Take one more. And kick it back. Squeeze. And then lengthen the knee out. Bring the foot down to the floor again and bring it back under. Do the same to the opposite side. So pressing away from the ground, setting ourselves up. So as we press out through that left leg, we lean as little as possible to the right. We keep the pubic bone on the center line of the mat. Lifting the foot, the knee, little flex. Draw the knee through. Exhale it into the nose. Inhale it back. Little press. Draw in the belly in. We'll come in last time. Extend the leg out, bring the foot to the floor, and bring the knees back underneath. Tuck toes of that right foot underneath, and allow yourself to just lift the knee a fraction off of the ground. Keep your pubic bone and belly button over the center line of the mat. Allow yourself to take the right knee out to the side as high as you can, and bring it back in, keeping it off of the floor. Take it out to the side again. That knee as best as we can is 90 degrees. We're trying to rotate the hips as little as possible. Pressing down into the shin, keeping them square, taking the knee out to the side. You can just about hear that little bit of strain in the voice as you get to that last little bit of it. Out to the side. We'll take one more. Into the center. Bring your knees back down to the ground. Take a breath. Start through the shoulders. And then lift. Toes tuck under. Left knee just away from the floor. Press down strong through the arms. Allow yourself to lift. Left leg out to the side. Bring it in. Just trying to keep it a little bit off of the ground. Keep it a constant. Keep the arms pressing down from the floor It's very easy for those elbows to kind of buckle underneath you. You want to be pressing down, keeping your trunk firm. 2 more lifts out to the side. Last one. Bring the knees gently back down to the floor. You're going to take a breath and lift your right foot just a little off the ground, pivoting on the right knee. You take your right foot as far out to the side as you can. Tuck the toes of your left foot underneath and slide that back. As you drop your heel in, press your hips over towards the left side and bring your right hand a little more in line with that right knee. You can continue to turn your right foot out to the side of the mat. You'll lengthen that left hand up towards the sky. With the big toe on the floor of the left foot, lift your heel up towards the sky. So get an internal rotation in the hip, and then lift the whole leg away from the ground as high as you can. Pressing down and lifting at the same time. And we'll bring the foot to the floor. Swoop the hand back in, bring the knees and feet back into that tabletop position. Take a little breath. We lift the foot of the left leg just a fraction. We pivot the foot out to the side on the knee. Slide the right foot back. Just the left hand in as the right heel comes down. Continue to spin the left leg out as you take your right hand high. So you get that as close to 90 degrees out to the side as you can. Lift the heel on the back foot away from the ground. Big toe touches. Then you start to lift that foot as high as you can. Holding for 5 breaths. Bring the foot down. Bring the hands back to the floor and the feet and the legs come back in. Lift the knees away from the ground. Back into down dog. Come forwards into plank. Push forwards on the tippy toes for half plank. Take up dog as we breathe in. We lift into our down dog. We bring the knees to the floor, towards the very front of the mat. Slide the feet out to the side and roll your bottom down to the ground. So now facing forwards, at least on the front half of your mat. Take the hands behind, roll your spine down to the floor. Now, if you've got a big pair of pants on, it's no easy way of saying that, just wriggle around so you're not kind of lying on that big bulky piece of material underneath your sacrum. You want to try and get the bone and the mat as close to as ground as you can. Still didn't quite manage it. Forgive me while I still adjust. Okay. I'm going to take my hands and interlace them around the back of my skull so that my elbows are out on the side of the floor. So the important thing is to keep the elbows out nice and wide, shoulders on the ground. I'm going to wriggle my feet in really close to my bottom, so squeezing the thighs together a little as well. Then I'm going to draw my chin in towards my chest. Elbows are still out wide and on the ground. It's really supporting my head and my fingertips. I'm going to draw the belly in and lower back into the ground, and then lift my chest towards my thighs. Take my hands forwards. I'm going to come into half bow. So I want to keep the chest lifted, the neck supported with the chin in towards the chest. Coming up onto the tippy toes, I lift a little higher, stretch the hands a little further forwards, and lengthen the legs out, pointing the toes and squeezing the thighs. As I exhale, I'm going to slowly lower those legs down, keeping them straight, until I more or less think I've got my big toes in line with my eyes. So obviously the higher you lift, the higher your feet are going to be from the floor. You can spread the toes out as well. I'm actually taking 5 breaths here, so that's 2. We'll slowly lift the legs back up, keeping the body lifted. So we more or less got those thighs back to where we started. We'll take the hands behind the back of the head. Elbows out wide. The knees slope, bring the feet to the floor. And now we can roll the spine down to the ground. Draw the knees in towards the chest. Give us a little bit of a hug. And roll whichever side you prefer to use your hands to press into the floor and lift back up. Swing the feet round to face the other end of the mat. And then turn down. I'll lift myself up into down dog. Feet in the front end of the mat. Now step both feet towards the front of the mat into a forward bend. Take a little breath there. Hands onto the hips. Let myself lift up. Hands come high. Breathe in. Hands into the heart and exhale over those thighs down to the floor. You can take a breath and step the right foot back and drop the heel in. Ready for warrior two. Lift the chest a little bit as I press the back foot down. Bring your hands alongside the body. Allow myself to lengthen up that right arm into my warrior two. So palms are forwards, shoulders relax. These hip bones here, same distance from the floor. Grinding the feet down and connecting, spreading the toes out. You can allow the hands to lift directly above the shoulders. And rotate gently and lift the back heel. And I'll lengthen forwards halfway. Now I'm going to press out through the back heel and stretch those fingertips as far forward as I can and just take an eyeball check. The front knee is over the ankle, drawing the belly in. One last breath. Hands come to the floor. And step back into that down dog. And forwards into the plank. Take the half and the up dog. Scissor the right leg high. Pull the knee in towards the chest and bring that through for lunge. Take a breath on the fingertips, push off the toes. Forward bend. Hands to the hips. Soften the knees and lift up. Hands come high. Into the heart. Exhaling all the way down. Remember, soft knees and weight into the toes. Take a breath. Left leg back into lunge and drop the heel in. When you're ready, hands come alongside the body. Left arm floats forwards and we open up into our warrior two. Check and adjust. Bring the hands high above the shoulders. Rotate slowly. Spin the back heel up. So as to lengthen out halfway. Strong legs, strong arms. One more breath. Bring it down to the floor. Stepping back into your dog. Half planks. Up dogs. To down dogs. Left leg scissors. Knee into the chest. Through into your lunge. Push off the toes. Breathe forwards. Hands onto the hips. Lift up. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. Exhale down. Taking the right foot back into lunge. I'm going to drop the back knee down to the floor. Float the arms towards your body as you lift your chest off the thigh. Bring the hands up in line with your torso, that slight angle. And drive the tailbone down to the lift bone. Bring the hands in towards your heart with the elbows out wide. Rotate to the left and take your right elbow to the outside into that revolved lunge. Take a breath and see if you can lift the back knee away from the floor. As you try and lift your chest high, roll that top shoulder over towards the right side of the mat. Release the hands down to the ground, just on the fingertips for a landing. Drop heeling, ready for warrior two. Hands alongside the body. Right arm comes through and up. Inhale the hands high and back down to the floor, frame in the front foot. Stepping back into our down dog. Coming forwards into plank. Half plank to up dog. Back into our down dog. Right leg scissors into the chest and through. Fingertips lunge. Push off the toes. Forward bend. Hands onto the hips. Second side. Inhale high. Into the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Left leg back. Knee to the ground. Hands alongside the body, lift the chest. Float the arms out, palms in. Exhale to lift. Hands in towards the heart and rotate. Then take the dive. Line yourself up, front knee over the ankle. And let's see if you're able to lift the back knee. Find some stability. Lift the chest, roll that top shoulder around a little bit more. Press out through the back heel. So the back heel, not only pressing out, but pointing towards the sky. So you can't look back very easily in this position, unless you happen to have a very long mirror next to you. So it's more of a feeling sensation. One more breath. Fingertips to the floor. Drop back heel in, ready for your warrior two. Hands alongside. Cartwheel up into your warrior. Float the hands high. Bring them down to frame the front foot. Step it back into your dog. Come forward into plank. Half plank. Up dog. Back into your down dog. Scissor the left leg. Lean towards the chest and through to the front of the mat. Take a little breath. Step it forwards. Hands on the hips. Lifting up. Hands come high. In towards the heart. Exhaling down to the floor. Stepping the right foot back and dropping the heel in. Ready for warrior two. Hands alongside the body. Right arm lifts and up we come. Hands lift high and down to the floor we frame. This time we step back into a plank. And take a side plank to the left. Allow ourselves to take the right hand high. And slide your top foot halfway up the mat. Then press into the floor to lift your hip as high as you can. On the side edge of that long leg. Lifting the hips as high as you can. Bring the hands down to the floor. Step it back into the plank. Roll in the legs to the right. Side plank, left arm lifts. Top leg comes halfway forwards. Press and lift, good. Sort of 8 inches of lift you're looking for, maybe more. Guess that's height dependent a little bit. Pressing the hand down, making sure it's underneath the shoulder. Stretching the top fingers as high as you can. A little bit of breathe. A little breath. Hands down to the floor. Back into the plank. Half plank. Up dog. And down dog. Scissor the right leg into the chest. Bring that through. Take a little breath. Step it forwards. Hands onto the hips and lift up. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. And exhale down. Stepping the left foot back. Dropping the heel in. Opening up into a warrior two. Hands come high and we frame the front foot as we come down. We step back into plank. Take it to the left. Right arm lifts. Top foot comes halfway forwards and we lift the hips. Hands come to the floor, we step back into plank. Cross it to the second side. Hands lift. Then the foot comes through. Then we get the lift. Hands come to the floor. Back into plank. Off plank. To up dog. To down dog. Left leg lifts. Forward in. Get through for the lunge. Press off those back toes. Final forward bend. Let's come onto the hips and we lift up. Inhale high. Bring the hands into your heart. Close your eyes. Hopefully the feet feel like they're parallel and in line. Without looking, if they don't feel like that, allow yourself to shuffle around. Until you think you've centered yourself. We'll let the eyes open. Cast our votes as we look down as to whether we need to move around or not. Pretty good this evening. Didn't expect that. I'm going to turn to the right because that's the way the camera's facing, and then take the legs out nice and wide, so whatever's easy to you to go down the length of your mat. Wriggle the feet out, get to that kind of ridiculously long stride, and float the arms out. So I'm into a star shape. I'm going to turn the front foot, follow the line of the mat. Lift on the ball of the back foot, turn the heel out so that hip can then turn a little diagonally. We're still on the chest, facing the long side of the mat. And sink into that front knee until it feels like it's over the front ankle. And lengthen out slowly into an extended side angle. Bring the forearm in, just bring the hand into the groin and slowly take the right arm up towards the sky and then out towards the front of the mat. Now keeping the chest facing the long side of the mat, drop the hand down to the floor and windmill round. And lift it up. Now if you have trouble keeping your chest pointing to the long side of the mat, then keep your head facing to the side. Otherwise you can let your head follow the fingertips. We'll work out through your neck and shoulders a little more. It can throw your balance out. So work with what works this evening, with whatever energy you have brought to the mat. Take a little breath. Allow ourselves to slowly take the hand down to the floor this time. Slowly spin back into a lunge. Take a breath. Step into the forward fold. And hopefully the feet are more or less on the center line. I can bring the toes together as I come into this pose straight away. Need a little bit of a gap, because I'm going to take the middle finger and the index finger of my right hand around the right toe. Same with the left. I'm going to press the feet down into the floor. Try and let the back of the legs open out straight as I can to play with the balance a little bit. And then I'm going to lift my chest forwards as far as I can so the arms are straight. And try and keep the head in line with the rest of the body. Now, consider a line from your hips, straight down your spine, through your shoulders, through the crown of your head. Consider the other line from your hips, straight down the back of your legs into your heels, into the soles of your feet. Take a little breath from there, draw the belly in, allow yourself to bend your elbows out to the side, down a little deeper, trying to keep those legs as straight as they were. Last thing you want to do is crown or draw your neck in. And just try and let the elbows come out, and let the body fold. So the head ends up where it ends up. There's no effort in the neck. There's no kind of pulling through those parts of the spine. We'll take a little breath and release the hands gently. Bring the fingertips to the floor as we lengthen out. Next time we soften the knees a fraction, bring the hands onto the hips, keep the spine long and flat, and let ourselves lift up. As we arrive, we take a step out to the left. Take the feet wide, adjust. Allow the hands to rise as we did before. Turn the front foot first, and then we'll spin the back heel. So just moving the hips are a little underneath us, the chest long, and then sink into that front knee fully, keeping the back foot pressing down. Extend out. Follow the line of the back leg with the torso. Forearm onto the front thigh, just giving a tiny bit of support as we take the top arm up. And again, we're going to windmill that around. Keeping the back leg pressing down. Sometimes you have to kind of adjust and wriggle the back foot around a little bit to get a really good purchase through that outside of the ankle into the sole of the foot. And we'll bring the hand down to the floor. Spin the back heel. Bring those feet together. Again, with just a little bit of distance there. Now, I'm going to pivot on the heel of the right foot, so lifting the toes of the right foot away from the floor, and place the hand underneath the foot, so right hand underneath right foot, palm and sole, and toes as close to the wrist as you can, pressing the back of your hand into the floor. When you feel stable, allow yourself to do the same with the opposite. It's a little bit tricky. As I say, you need a little bit of space there to get all your fingers and thumbs in. Again, we lift the hips up and over the hips. We're going to try and lengthen the chest forwards as much as we can. It straightens the arms a little more. Apart from the fact that this pose is quite tricky in its own right, trying to come out again You see, he's also a little bit tricky as well. So take your time, soften the knees just a little bit. Allow yourself to lift one foot, bring the hands out, stabilize, and lift the other foot, stabilize. Both feet to the floor. Take a little breath from there. Now, hopefully your block wasn't too far away. I happen to have mine quite close by in front of the mat. So I'm going to take that behind my feet. Then take the fingers forwards and step the heels gently onto the corner edges of the block. With the toes out to the side. Allow myself to squat down so my knees follow my toes. I've landed. So I bring the hands in towards my heart. Just pressing those back of the elbows into the inner thigh, spreading the knees out a little wider. So hopefully everything is nicely warmed up. Take a little breath, release the right hand and swing that out to the side. Turn the thumb down, palm back. Just pushing the shoulder forwards a little bit as I lean through. I can bend the elbow and bring my hand towards my hip. Rotate my chest to the left and extend the arm out first, get some space, and then bend that arm gently and bring my hands around and see if I can get some fingers to lock. Release. Grab. Bring everything gracefully back to the center. And take a little breath through there. Float my left hand out to the side, a bit of space. Draw the shoulder forwards a little bit, so I lean into it and bring my hand towards the hip. Once I'm there, I spin and open the right arm out, get some space, and gently bring the hand around, some fingers. Now, if you try and throw your arm around and grab it quickly, because you're kind of playing with your balance a little bit, and you think if you get into the pose quickly, you'll be okay. Generally, that doesn't work. First of all, moving quickly in a pose where your balance is compromised tends to throw you on your ass or on your face, one or the other. And also, you want to be very gentle with those shoulders, the collarbones, etc., moving them around. You want to give the body a little bit of time to release and move into those directions. Anyway, hopefully you landed safe, released, bring the hands back. Now I'm going to simply take the hands behind. My bum is pretty much down on the block. And I can untangle the legs gently and lengthen them out. Just release those shins, those ankles a little bit, which do get quite a good stretch. A little bit burning, to say the least. Now I'm going to move off of the block and just move that towards the back of the mat. Use that for my head. Hands still behind, knees high. Draw the belly in, just roll the spine down. Let the arms come out wide and bring the heels in towards my bottom. I'm going to shimmy the hips over towards the left side and let the legs come down to my right. Keeping my shoulders on the ground, turning the head to the left. Use my right hand and just lay that on top of my legs to help give them a little bit more weight. And encourage that top leg to sink down. Release. Bring the knees back up. I'll shimmy the hips to the opposite side. Myself to roll the legs over. Left hand can come on the thighs again, just to help. Let the knees slowly come back up. flexion, then back into the center. Now I'm going to take the block and just put that between my thighs. So I've got something to squeeze onto. I still want my feet to be about hip distance apart and the heels very slightly turning out. Wriggle the shoulders and my pelvis down into the floor so my back feels as flat as long as I can make it. I'm going to take the hands along by the side. We're going to come into bridge pose. On the exhale, I'm going to draw the belly down into the spine, roll that into the floor, and start to take the hips high and lift them up. I'm just going to try and press the knees forwards, and I'm only looking for a line between the knee, hip, and shoulders. I don't need to press the chest any higher than that. Keep it nice and soft in the back of the neck. And just rolling the spine down again. So these won't be the biggest bridges you've ever done in your life. They're specifically not intended to be like that. It's more about trying to lengthen the legs away as you press gently into the hands and feeling the work between the front and the back of the thigh and the glutes evenly. So we're taking a third of the effort each. Generally, if we come up a little higher, we kind of ram into either the thighs or the lower back, and the glutes actually turn off a little bit. So we're using this to activate evenly, hopefully, the right and the left glute. Also getting a little bit of ability, strength along the spine as well. All helps build confidence and ease in the pose, which is a good thing. Those knees stretch forwards a little bit. Just beginnings of a fire up deep in the tissues of your glutes. Take one more lift. Bring ourselves down. So we'll take the block out again and just gently put it behind the back of the head. I'll wiggle the heels in towards my bottom and take my right knee in towards my chest. Take the hands around the front of the shin. And slide my left leg out along the mat. And try and send both sitting bones away as I press the left heel to the front of the mat. Draw very right knee towards my armpit on the right side. And then I'll release that. And that foot close to my bottom, draw the leg in. Left knee comes in. Right leg lengthens out. Just trying my best to slide it along the floor down the center line, flex the foot a little bit, send the tailbone back towards the front of the mat. All that knee towards the armpit. Release. And take a final little hug, bring both knees in, chin towards the chest. Now in that hug position, I'm going to try and bring the arms into the inside of the thighs, wrap the hands around the feet ready for happy baby. And slowly take the feet towards the sky directly above the knees. And then lay my spine and my head back down to the floor. Release from there, slowly. Feet to the floor. Slide the heels out to the corner edges of the mat. And some people like to have block under the head all the time. Some people like to take it out all the time. Some people like to change from time to time. So allow yourself to find a comfortable position. Blankets on or extra tops if you cool down quickly where you are. Allow yourself to wriggle out through the shoulders and the hips, and the toes and the fingers. Loosen your jaw, closing your eyes. Resting gently. Begin to wriggle those fingers and toes. The wrists and the ankles join in. A bit of a deeper breath. Use that to stretch out any way that feels good. Finally, let yourself draw the heels in towards your body. A gentle hug and a little rock and roll. Rolling the knees gently into the right side. Using the hands to press into the floor to lift up away from the ground. Roll carefully to a seated posture. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Take a little breath from here. Eyes closed. Slowly exhale, dropping the chin. Finding the belly draw to the spine, we bow to the floor, sealing our practice. As the breath comes back in, the spine lifts, head follows, the eyes open. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me for the last class of 2021. I shall see you on the mat soon in the new year. Have a good one.